Today, I had an inspiring conversation with Tracy, founder of STEP in Arizona. We discussed how her program is helping low-income students in Arizona pave their way to college. What makes STEP truly unique is its 3-week immersion in Alaska, where students learn essential life skills. Tracy shared how this transformative experience helps high schoolers shift their mindset and gain acceptance into prestigious colleges. This is an episode you won't want to miss. Welcome to the Foundations of Learning podcast. I hope to inspire you to actively participate in your child's learning journey, fostering a love for knowledge and nurturing the skills necessary for success in a rapidly changing world. All right, Tracy. Well, I am so excited to have you on the podcast today. I have been looking at your organization. I've been looking at the homepage of the STEP program, and I just want my audience to kind of know who you are. You are the founder of an organization called STEP, obviously, and this is out of Arizona. But can you tell us a little bit more about what made you want to start this program to help low-income students get into college?
Yes. Well, a little background on me. My background is actually in oceanography, strangely enough. And for years I was teaching college semesters at sea. I don't know if you're familiar with that sort of thing, but going out on a tall ship and doing a full semester out at sea. And I was also working as an instructor for Outward Bound and for NOLS. And I was finding in all of these experiences very transformational experiences for students. And throughout the years as I was working with students, I thought, gosh, I'm mostly working with wealthy students and predominantly white students, to be honest with you. And I started to wonder where everybody else was. And that got me into looking into education statistics. And you see a large educational achievement gap between high-income and low-income students. And that's not on ability alone. And so I really started to think about the kinds of things that I was doing and the confidence that it gave students and kind of the larger worldview and all sorts of really great things that came out of these experiences. I thought, gosh, what if we would be able to provide that to students from this low-income background, allowing them to give them the tools to be able to go on to college. So I did about a year of research on this. I actually talked to educators, teachers, counselors, principals. I said, what is going on with this statistic? Tell me more about this. And they said, gosh, Tracy, there's so many students that we personally know that were doing really well in school, taking hard courses, doing really well, coming from a low-income background, and we just thought they were on their way to college and didn't give it a second thought, and they did not end up going to college. And once I heard that, and that was kind of a common theme that I was coming across, I thought, gosh, that's who I want to work with. I want to work with those students that are working really hard, and nobody's guiding them. And for some reason, they're not going on to college. So that got me to establish STEP. And initially, and I hate to say but initially it was a 3-week leadership expedition in the wilderness of Alaska. That's what STEP was. And we partnered from the get-go with a wonderful organization called NOLS, National Outdoor Leadership School. And we've been partnering with them ever since. We're now 20 years old. And so we would take these desert urban kids out into the wilderness of Alaska sea kayaking in Prince William Sound. And it was incredibly transformational. But over the years, as I was working with them, I would really bond with them because I was an instructor on these courses. And I'd say, well, where are you going to college? And they would really only give me a few options, right? Their local community college and Stanford, for example, or their local community college and the Arizona University town that they lived in. And I thought, gosh, nobody's really guiding them on all their choices. And I was seeing our students having various amounts of success, either applying to or going to college. And so in 2011, we jumped in the deep end of the pool. And we decided we have to do a multi-year college access, college prep program. Really the thing that broke the camel's back for me, the straw that broke the camel's back for me, was one of my students came to me and said, hey, I want to go to the local community college or Smith College. And I was really surprised at that. And I realized she knew the local community college from her peers. She had heard me talk about Smith College. She didn't know Smith College from anything, but she had heard it from me. She trusted me, and so she wanted to apply to Smith College. And it really it really kind of reminded me that it's about relationship. A lot of this is about relationship, right? And so I was so excited. And I said, show me your transcript. I'm going to help you through this process and that sort of thing. And then I looked at her transcript, and it was straight A's, all throughout high school, but not a single challenging course. So no one had ever advised her as a straight A student coming from a low income background to take a challenging course, take an honors, take an advanced placement course. And I realized looking at this transcript, wow, this was a huge miss, right? And these students need guidance, and that's when we jumped in. And in 2011, we started really our comprehensive multi-year college prep program with students.
That is so amazing. And I've actually only worked at Title I schools. I was not in the high school realm of things. I was in the elementary realm of things. But I do think that it is something, I mean, obviously with the littles, they will tell you what they want to do based on kind of like what their parents are doing, right? And I think that that still kind of goes through even once they get into like junior high and high school. It's like, what are my friends doing? What has my family done? And I will say, I don't think that counselors generally will try to push you unless you like go to them. Like if you go to them and you say, hey, I would like to do X, Y, and Z, like they'll totally help you get signed up for all these classes. But it's more of like, these are the classes that are required of you to graduate high school. And I think a lot of people don't think unless their parents or an outside influence is telling them, hey, let's get you into these AP classes, or let's see if we can do some college courses while you're in high school, because I know a lot of high schools do that as well. And so I think that's awesome that they have this, I guess, mentor or this program or whoever, right, to kind of help push them into a direction that maybe they hadn't thought of before.
You know, I think I think there's a couple things at play. One is that at the large predominantly low income high schools that we work with, public high schools, right? In Arizona, the counselor to student ratio is like 1 to 800 some, right? So
Yeah.
no matter how passionate you are as a counselor coming in, you cannot deal with those kinds of numbers, right? And
Yes.
so they're so overloaded. They're working to keep students in high school, right? And you can see where this advising for college and advising on courses to, you know, might go by the wayside. There's that, and then there's the other piece of you mentioned it. What has happened historically in your family, right? And if you are the first one, for example, to even graduate high school in your family, which is not that unusual, you've already blown way past the goalpost,
Yep.
right? And so there's kind of no idea of like, what do I have to do to go on to college?
Yes, and I do think that that is something that can get really overwhelming for students. And I also think another factor, this is just like my own thoughts as well. Obviously, I've been to college, I have a master's degree, like all these things, right? And it's not cheap. It's not cheap to go to school. And sometimes it can be really hard to find really good scholarships to help you to get through school. Like even if you are low income, like it can still be really hard to get that financial piece taken care of, because we all know that like student loans are a big thing that it takes a lot of people a long time to pay off, especially if you get into a career like teaching, for example, right? Like you don't get paid a ton of money in teaching, but you also have this extreme amount of debt. So it takes a really long time to pay it off. And so I also wonder sometimes if that's kind of a piece, and I don't know, obviously you've worked with way more students than I have in the high school realm of things, of like, is that also a reason that they might say like, well, I'm going to go to this community college because it's cheaper, or I'm going to go here because I can't get this scholarship, or maybe they just don't know how to apply for scholarships, things like that.
This is a bit of a fallacy out there, okay? In that, if as a low income high school student, you are willing to work hard, take the most challenging courses, and really put effort into your schoolwork to do well in those challenging courses, you are so well off because there are schools ready and willing to pay for you. And this is
Okay.
what we don't talk about this enough. And I always, whenever I hear anything about, massive student debt and,
Hmm.
people can't afford to go to college, I'm like, for the low income students who, when you are applying for financial aid to schools, you are
Hmm.
filling out a FAFSA form and you're
Hmm.
filling out, if you're going out of state, you're filling out a CSS profile form, right? And that's telling the schools what financial need you have. If your financial need is everything, there are schools out there that will cover your full financial need. And those are the schools, it's a very vetted list for us. Those are the schools that we work with along with our Arizona universities. Those are
Hmm.
the schools out of the state, outside of Arizona. Those are the only schools that we expose our students to, right? Because
Gotcha.
literally what those schools are saying is if we accept you, and that's a big piece of what we do with our students is that you have to take the hard courses, you have to be doing well in order for those schools to think you can handle their rigor. But if you can, and they want you, they're going to pay for everything that you need. So it can actually be for a student, a low income student that is really working hard in high school and taking the most challenging courses, you can literally be looking at a free ride to college. And that's a group of top, they just happen to be the top ranked schools in the country, right? We don't go to those schools because they're top ranked. We go to them because they guarantee to meet full financial need. So if they accept you, they guarantee they will cover your need, right? Which is
Hmm.
huge.
Yes.
So our students are getting out of school, many of them debt free,
That's amazing.
and going to amazing schools around the country. But
Hmm.
you've got to be willing to put in the work.
Yeah, and I do think that that is one thing, right? That like if you are low income, there should be a lot of opportunities for you to get out of college debt free, right? Like there's a lot of different scholarships, and then even just like with FAFSA, like you said, like financial, um, that's more like, would you say a grant from the government? I'm
Yeah,
not a
for
hundred.
for for the for the FAFSA piece, it's the Pell Grant,
Okay,
and
yeah,
maybe the FSEOG grant. But
okay,
we're looking at about $8,000. Well, we know
yeah,
some of these schools cost $90,000,
yes,
right?
yes,
Where is that money coming from? It's actually coming from the school. So when
gotcha.
you look at the financial aid awards and the gift aid that the school is actually providing to students in our program,
Hmm.
you would be shocked. I mean, it's, 70, 80, $90,000 with of gift aid that the school is willing to provide to the student. And that doesn't go to the student, it goes to their account to pay
Yes,
for school, right?
yes, yes.
But that's where a majority of the funding is coming from. Now, we always recommend our students apply to outside, private scholarships for sure, because it can always help. It can replace loans if there are any loans in the package. It can replace work study often, that sort of thing. But a majority of the gift aid that our students are getting to be able to afford college is actually coming from the institutions themselves.
Gotcha. And I think that's such helpful information to know because like I said, like I wanted to go to college. I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do, but I knew I wanted to go to college and do something with children. Like I just love kids. So I was like, I don't know what that's going to be, whether that's psychology, education, pediatric work, like whatever that is. And it was like something that I realized like, holy crap, school can be really, really expensive. And if you aren't low income, it can be really hard for you to get any sort of financial aid unless you're getting scholarships, right? And you would have to, like you said, be doing these advanced courses and getting straight A's and all of this stuff. And so I think that even, in my situation where I don't really come from a low income, I'm from a middle class family, right? So
Right.
it's like one of those things where it's like I know that's what I want to do, but also I can't get that extra help. And so I think it's important, even just for anyone listening to this, that if you put in the work, if you take these AP classes or even try to take some college courses that the high school will actually pay for, so you don't have to pay for them, and you can get so many credits when you're in high school for college, right? Um, and just understanding that whole, I guess, piece to the puzzle, because I do think that kind of scares some people off, is that price tag that's on college, right?
Well, and they have these price calculators that are on a lot of university and colleges, like financial aid part of their website. Price net, I think it's net price calculators is what they're called. And you can put in some information about the financial situation that you have with your family, and you can get some idea of what it might cost. But I'm here to say that even, I think also people assume, oh, I'm middle class. They're not gonna be able to provide me with any financial aid. I think you'd be surprised. Again, at those institutions, what I want to stress is anybody looking into this should Google colleges, universities that meet full financial need. That's the term that you're looking for. Who guarantees to meet full financial need? And you would be surprised that even middle class students can get a good amount of aid from the colleges and universities themselves.
That's so good to know because, like I said, it's a really confusing process
It
when you
is.
start it as and you're 18, you're just getting out of high school, and you're trying to figure out. And even your parents, like I mean, my parents were like, I don't know, like apply to these scholarships, like you know what I mean, like I'm not quite sure how to do it, and so I think that. That is something that would be so helpful to know. So thank you for providing that information so that if there are people listening that are like, oh, that's what I need to Google, and that's, maybe I can help my child. And I mean, if you're going into different programs, I will say too, like for education, for instance, you can get different grants that are provided to you, and then you just have to fulfill what they say. So for example, like I got a grant as an educator where I just had to work in a Title I school for the amount of time that I had that grant paying for my education.
Absolutely.
That was super helpful for me because then I could use that, and I just obviously that's all I've worked in now is Title I, and I actually loved working in Title I. So at first I was a little nervous, but then I just ended up loving it. But it is something that you can look into as well once you are in a program of whatever it is that you're going to do.
Yeah. And also, I want to put a plug out there for, I know that we immediately go to, oh my gosh, loan debt, it's so awful, it's so big, it's so huge. But the federal student direct loans, there's a cap on what you can get as far as how much loan you can get. But within that, especially if you're a low income, maybe lower middle class, income range, there's a portion of that that's subsidized. Okay, it's a subsidized loan within the direct student loan. The cap on the full direct student loan, for example, the first year is $5,500. Okay, within that is a cap of $3,500 for subsidized loan. It's the best loan anybody's going to get in your whole entire life, because literally the entire time you're in school, no interest is accruing, which is crazy, right? I mean, that's crazy good. Right? So the whole time you're in school, no interest is accruing, and then I think you have 6 months before you have to start paying back the loan and that sort of thing. So there's loans and then there's loans, but
Yes.
there is, we do talk to our students about, if you just need a little bit to just help make it less financially stressful, you might want to consider these subsidized loans with that as a direct student loan, a federal direct student loan. It's a very specific thing, and you can go on to the studentaid.gov website to learn about that. So that, if you took $3,500 the first year and that increases by $1,000 each year for the subsidized loan portion, right? That you would be getting out with some debt, but not a crazy amount of debt, right? And the whole time that you're in school, that interest is deferred. It's not accumulating. I mean, so there's also some education along that, which is, a little bit of loan might just be great. It might be very doable for you. It might make the difference between you being able to afford this and you can't.
Yes. And I mean, like I said, I think this is going to be super helpful information for any parent that has a child that, wants to go to college and maybe they can't help pay for it, right? And they need to get that financial aid. So I think that's a lot of great information. And I didn't mean to turn this podcast into like how to get into college and not be in extreme debt when you leave.
But I also want to make the point that it's really important for the students out there, right? Your job in high school is to take those challenging courses and do as well as you possibly can do in that, because you have to show colleges and universities that you can do the rigor,
Yes.
and that's the only way that they're going to be convinced that you can. If you can do that, if you can put the hard work in high school to do that, you could have a lot of options.
Yes, I love that. All right, so with this program over the years, you've obviously been doing it. Is this like your 20-year anniversary now for STEP,
It
right?
is our 20th
Okay,
anniversary,
20th
yes.
anniversary. That's amazing. So, over the years, have you noticed that your program helps even just shift the mindset of the future generation? And how so? And why do you think that this is helping them into the future?
Absolutely. It's a complete mind shift, not just for the students we're working with, but for their entire family. And we find that a lot of our students, once they go through our program, we'll have younger siblings come into our program, right? Because now the family kind of sees this bigger picture of what's out there and what can happen if the student is willing and ready to do the hard work in high school. So not only does it shift the family, but it shifts the community, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because then you have cousins and friends and that sort of thing. And we've even
Mm-hmm.
heard from the schools that we have students, the high schools that have STEP students, that those STEP students now are also impacting their peers, right?
That's awesome.
So they're learning what they're learning in STEP, and then
Mm-hmm.
they're teaching their peers. They're literally just passing it on to their peers, and we've been told that our impact is so much greater than just the students we work with, because those students are now mentoring their friends in their
Mm-hmm.
classes and helping them through the process. So that's really, I love to see that. And honestly, the ripple effect from this is huge because we are talking about generational change through higher
Yes.
education. And that is, once one of our students gets a college degree, and maybe they go on and get a master's, maybe they get a PhD, maybe they're a physician, there's so many things that our alumni are doing, right? But
Mm-hmm.
their kids are going to college. Like that's a generational shift that's happened right there.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I get very excited about that larger ripple effect that we're having over, from here on out generationally in those families and
Yeah, and
communities.
that is a big deal because I can't even think of what theorist it is right now, but that generational ripple effect is actually so important. They've done so many studies on what kids will end up doing based on like what their parents did and the examples that they had within their life. Whether, and it might not even be their parents are obviously the most influential in their life. However, even within the community, like if they have any sort of mentors or anything that they can see that's slightly different than the path that has been happening within their family is so important because it can break that because it is a thing. We generally will do maybe about the same as our parents, maybe a little bit better, but we generally will take the path that we are familiar with, right? Which is what our family has done.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And like I said, these our students then become role models for cousins, siblings,
Mm-hmm.
friends of the family. And in going this route, it's about, it really is an expansion of your known world, right?
Yes.
So we literally have, our Tucson and Phoenix, Arizona kids going around the country to college and universities. And you know that everything that they are being exposed to in that 4 years, also doing study abroad, which many of our students do for at least a semester, that is just broadening your worldview of what is
100%.
out there and also what the opportunities are.
Mm-hmm.
And also, we think about a student going to college or university and just think about everything that they're exposed to. So that, when you get there, you actually realize there's more things that you could do for a career than you maybe even knew about, right? So
Yes.
yeah, it just explodes their horizons, basically.
Yeah, and I do think it's important specifically too for these low income families because you do realize, like even working with the littles, you realize that their worldview can be a lot smaller than those that are from a more wealthy family. Because if you are more wealthy, you generally go on more vacations, you see more of the world, you go do more activities and things like that, just because you do have that financial I guess, cushion to be able to do those things. And so you do notice that low income students, unfortunately, do not get as many of those experiences. And so I think that's super important too, that they get the opportunity to have those new experiences when, generally speaking, they don't.
Right. And I think that's the point for our program in being able to expose students not only to the Arizona universities, which we're
Mm-hmm.
huge fans of, but also to those schools around the country that will meet their full financial need and say, hey, these are all your options. You should know your options and then be able to choose what's best for you and your family among those options for those
Yes.
schools that admit you.
Beautiful. I love it. So, over the past 20 years, how successful has your program been in getting these low income students not only able to graduate, but also excel in school and then get accepted into these prestigious colleges around the country?
Our program has been incredibly successful at that. So I can give you a statistic. 96% of our college prep students are that have graduated from our program, graduated high school, are either in college or have got a college degree,
That's amazing.
which is an amazing statistic. And you think about, well, why is that? I think
Hmm.
one of the reasons is we set the bar high for our
Hmm.
students. And I think this can happen sometimes. I think there's a dichotomy sometimes between low income and high income students as far as what the expectation is, where that level
Hmm.
is set. And we set it high because we absolutely believe our students can meet that high bar, right? And so in the 2.5+ years that they are with us, we're training them on multiple levels, right? And we're also working on self-advocacy skills because they've got to be able to take it from here, right? I will say to
Hmm.
our students and parents when they first come in the program in our orientation, our whole goal is to become obsolete in your life, right? So that we
Hmm.
give you the tools, the confidence, the self-advocacy, etc., to be able to take it from here when you go to college and use the resources you need to use, ask for the help you need, seek out things that you want to do, that sort of thing. Advocate for yourself. And if the first answer is no, maybe ask again. Ask in a different
Yes.
way, right? Advocate for yourself. And I think that those kind of the confidence that we give, the larger worldview, the skills, those self advocacy skills, I think all of this plays into being successful. The other thing that it plays into it is the schools that we work with, they have incredible graduation rates, right? So they have the resources for students to be able to
Hmm.
navigate this. And, again, for us, it's not about going to college, it's about getting a college degree. That's a
Hmm.
very different emphasis, right?
Yeah.
And so I think with everything that they kind of graduate from STEP and high school with, having been in our program, allows them to have this kind of success rate.
That's awesome. And I do think, like you said, if you set a high expectation for a child, more than likely they're going to meet that expectation. So the lower your expectation is, like, they don't feel like they have to reach as hard, right? Like they can just do the bare minimum and they don't have to really reach for that. But if you have a high expectation of them, more than likely they're going to meet that expectation and they might even excel past that expectation, right? So I think that's so, so important. Even with little kids, like you have to have that high expectation of them because they will strive to meet that expectation. And so I think that's super important.
And I think what you're telling them in no uncertain terms is I absolutely know in my heart of hearts that you can meet this expectation.
Yes.
And that's
Hmm. They can
really
believe it.
powerful. That's really powerful.
It
You
is.
know,
And
that,
I
that
love,
they have people that believe in them.
yes, because if you believe in them, then they're like, oh, I can believe in myself and I know I can do this. And then once they succeed, they're like, holy cow, you were right. Like, I can do these things, right? So even just having someone that believes that they can succeed in that is super, super important. And I do think even the skills that you're teaching them are great life skills.
Absolutely.
It's
100%.
not even just for college. Like, it's great life skills to have even once you're in your profession and things like that. I think that they need those type of skills.
Absolutely. I mean, one of the things we do is let's talk about interview skills, right? Well, there's
Hmm.
interview skills to interview for college, but then you're going to use interview skills from here on out on
Hmm.
fellowships, internships, job opportunities, et cetera, right? So
Yes.
gaining those skills, those people skills, et cetera. There's just so much training that we're doing in this kind of comprehensive program, right? Writing skills. We're working on writing skills. We're working on how do you write a thank you letter, right? Kind of
Hmm.
really good training for moving forward in life, whatever you're going to be doing.
100%. So, one question I did want to ask is, have you ever had any students that kind of go through this program? Maybe they think that they want to pursue college and then they decide that maybe they want to go into a trade or entrepreneurship or anything like that? Or is this just strictly like if you want to go to college, this program is only for you?
For our program, that is our focus, absolutely 100%. Going directly from high school to a 4-year college degree. That's what we say. Because, a lot of students will go on to community college and we say, no, like if you, again, this is where that kind of different view, kind of high income, low income students, right? If you're doing the hard work and you're taking the hard courses, there's no reason you shouldn't go directly to a 4-year institution. And honestly, it can be cheaper for you to get that financial aid directly off the bat at a 4-year institution, stay there and get your degree in 4 years than it is to take another route, say through community college, for example. So our focus is absolutely 100% about going to college directly after high school. It's not to say that those other pathways aren't fantastic pathways for other students. We realize we are working with a subset of students that this is their pathway, right? And we stay true to that. I think one of the things at 20 years in is we've stayed true to our mission.
And I think that's awesome. If that's your mission, that's your mission. I was just curious to see like if there was anybody else that maybe went through the program and they were like, you know what, maybe I'm going to start a business or I'm
Oh,
going to,
there certainly are. I mean, I gave you that 96%, so 4% have chosen
there is a 4%.
have chosen a different route, right?
You're
But
right.
while
You're
they
right.
were in our program, they were on that pathway.
I've gotcha. Okay. So do you only help the low income students in the state of Arizona? And if so, do you plan to create programs nationwide to help different, kids in different states, or what is your thoughts on that?
I will say for the moment, we have more than enough work to do here in Arizona. We stay
I'm
very,
sure.
very busy. What I would encourage is I think organizations like ours are most successful when they're, locally on the ground, right, in communities with relationship.
Yeah.
I think that's when the real power happens. And I think what we are doing is not rocket science, right? It's really about hard work. And I mean, I can't say, when they first come into our program, I can't tell you how much I stress, you can believe, we can believe, all these things. But in the end, it takes hard work when nobody's looking.
Yes.
When nobody's giving you accolades, right? In the middle of the night when nobody's paying attention, like that's when it's, you've got to do the hard work. And there's no substitute for that, right? But, the guidance, the skill building, that sort of thing. I mean, I think our method is very reproducible and I'll just throw it out there. I'm happy to mentor anyone that is interested in this sort of thing in their community.
Yes. I think that is super important to think about, like you said, really understanding your community, because every single community is going to be so different. The needs of that community is going to be very, very different. And so it's really hard. That's why, like, I do feel like the districts or even the state board of, Utah or Arizona or whatever in the education realm, they are the ones that are making the most change because they understand their state's needs. They understand even at another level their community needs. And even at your own school, you usually have, a little community board that meets and you really get to understand your community and what their needs are so that you can really pinpoint what it is, and that's what's going to help them the very most. So I do think that that is important. So yeah, if anyone is out there in this world that is like, you know what, I want a program like STEP to
Reach
be in
out.
my state. Yeah, reach out to Tracy, because I think that's super awesome, and I think it's just super helpful for students, just having that little bit of mentorship there.
Yes, and
So,
we are meeting with our students once a month in person,
mhm,
and then we're individually advising them throughout their whole tenure with us. So it's very hands-on. It's very
mhm.
personal.
I love that. So, one thing that I am so excited about as I was looking through the STEP program is the Alaskan expeditions. And the reason it hit home so much with me is I love being outside in nature. I hunt, I go backpacking, things like that. And just being in nature is healing for me. That is when I feel like I have my clearest thoughts. This is when I feel like I am so powerful in just being able to be self-sufficient and that I'm strong and that there's just so many things that you learn when you're in nature. So when I saw that you do these expeditions to Alaska, I was like, this is amazing because I don't think people realize how powerful it is to be in nature, do hard things, and prove to yourself that you can do those hard things and you can be self sufficient and pushing through even when you're at your breaking point of like, I can't do this anymore. And then pushing past it because you need all of that, like I said, not only in college, but also just in life, in your whatever route your life takes you. These are such important skills. And so I want you to tell me a little bit more about these Alaskan expeditions. And I'm super jealous of these kids because I'm like, that sounds like a dream. But like, what is required of them? How long do they stay? Like, what exactly do these expeditions look like?
Well, first of all, you hit on a lot of the points of why this is so powerful, right? Literally, if I could put these guys on the moon, I would, right?
Mm-hmm.
You want to get them as far outside of their comfort zone as possible. And taking desert urban kids to the
Mm-hmm.
wilderness of Alaska, sea
Yes.
kayaking in the ocean is
Yep.
about as much, as far away as you can get from that.
That's like the moon
It
to
really
them.
is like the moon,
Yes.
honestly. And this is where we started because we know that this is such a powerful experience. We know as adults that you can say to a young person until you're blue in the face, you can do anything you want to do. And you know
Mm-hmm.
what's going to happen with that? It's going to go right over their heads and they're not going to absorb that really at all. It's not
Mm-hmm.
until a person has an experience that it really deeply informs them of that they can really recognize it. And essentially that's what our expedition does. So to be honest with you, I also run across a lot of people that say, "Oh gosh, I'd love to do that. I'd love to do that." Maybe not, because I will tell you, these expeditions are really tough. First of all, it's important to know that our students leave their cell phones behind. So there's no for 3 weeks. And I want to give a little kudos to our parents in the program because I really think that this is the biggest leap of faith that our parents take with us because
Mm-hmm.
most of our kids have never been away from home. They certainly, a lot have not flown, been
Yeah.
away from their parents, and now we're asking them to disconnect from the technological world and disconnect from any communication with their parents for 3 weeks. They literally leave their cell phones behind at the NOLS Alaska branch while they go out into the wilderness for 3 weeks. So that in itself is
Wow.
huge because I will tell you the best mental health you could do thing you could do for a young person is to get them to disconnect from their phone, right? So
Even
then,
adults,
yeah,
yes. Even
adults,
adults,
absolutely,
like that's
100%.
that's my time. You go to nature, and I love when I don't have any service. I don't look at my phone for like a whole week. It's just put away, and you don't even know.
Just not possible.
Yeah, and it's so yeah, I think even adults could benefit from that. Like, just challenge you to even just for 2 days, like, don't even use your phone.
Exactly, exactly. And so then let's think what we do. We go out there for 3 weeks,
Mhm.
all right? And that 3 weeks is really an important time frame because the first week I will tell you, the students are completely discombobulated. They are hating it.
Yep.
They hate it, right?
Hmm.
Literally, I can't tell you, when I was an instructor on our courses, we go out, you go get on a boat to get taken out to a wilderness beach in Prince William Sound, Alaska.
Hmm.
And 8 times out of 10, it would be pouring down rain
Hmm.
the first day. So you literally take the boat, you dump all the gear, the kayaks, the kids, everything, the instructors. We have 3 instructors for 12 students. It's important to understand. We're not just throwing them out there
Yeah.
on their
It's
own,
us.
right? And the boat goes away. And
Hmm.
I've been on that beach with students, pouring down rain, no facilities anywhere, bags on a beach. And I've looked around to 12 faces, all of which are thinking, I can see it in their faces, I've made a huge mistake. I shouldn't be here, you
Uh-huh.
know? And so you're teaching how to camp, you're teaching them how to cook in the wilderness, how to uh, be hygienic in the wilderness, etc. All this in the first week, and it's pouring down rain,
Hmm.
and it can be really a challenging. Doesn't even cover what this is, right? It's like, okay, trial by fire or by rain or whatever, right?
They got to start getting comfortable with being uncomfortable.
And they have to work through it together,
Yep.
and the instructors are helping them and they're teaching them the skills and that sort of thing. So that's that first week, where typically if I gave them a go home free card, they would.
I'm
They'd go
sure.
home, right? The second week, they start to feel comfortable out there. They start to understand, they know how to camp, they know how to kayak, they know the conditions, they've gotten comfortable with the people they're out there with, and so they start to feel comfortable. It's that third week where they really start to thrive and lead their peers. And it is transformational. It is, they recognize, first of all, when you think about it, we've just put them in an incredibly foreign place and they have adapted,
Hmm.
right? Not only have they adapted, but they're thriving. Not only are they thriving, but they're leading, right?
Hmm.
And by the end of this 3 weeks, I will tell you that most of our students would go back to Alaska in a heartbeat.
Hmm.
It was super transformational. They really understand very internally that they have what it takes to meet unknown challenges.
Yep.
And they think back, a lot of our students have said in the past, hey, if I can do STEP and I can do Alaska, I can do anything. And
Hmm.
that's not me telling them that. That's them recognizing that from the experience that they just had. So it's massive. It's a massive. So now we're taking a desert urban kid, and maybe they're going to school in New York or Maine or North Carolina or somewhere in the Midwest, and they don't have any experience with that whatsoever. But they have that to think back on and say, hey, if I could do that, I can do this, and it gets them through the hard times. Right?
Hmm.
That the hard times like that first week was for them, right? They know that it includes hard times to get to a place that's really good,
Yes,
right?
and
So
honestly,
all of that,
yes, and I love that. And honestly, my husband and I, we call that type 2 fun. It's not fun when you're doing it in the slightest.
right?
And even when you look back at it, you're like, huh, was that fun? But it's this thing that it's, like I said, it's getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. And it's so powerful to realize that, like, that was so freaking hard. And somehow I survived. I got through. And not only did I survive and get through, but I thrived, right? So it's just so important for young people. And even if you are not in Arizona or you're not a part of this program, I urge any parents out there to, like, even just do that with their kids. Like, take, time away, even if it's just for a weekend, no technology, no phones, go out into nature. And I really do think that it can be so beneficial for kids to do that and understand that they can get through things that are hard. They can be self-sufficient, they are strong, and it helps them to internalize that they can believe in themselves and that they can set those high expectations for themselves and that they can meet those expectations. And like you said, it's late at night, right, when you're laying in bed, is the most important piece of, am I actually going to succeed, right? Like, I don't need that external person telling me I'm going to succeed. I now can believe it for myself. So I think that's so amazing.
And I'll just put another resource out there for folks that would like to have this kind of experience, or would like their children to have this kind of experience, and that is our partner NOLS. So you can Google NOLS at nols.edu, NOLS, and they have amazing, all sorts of different course lengths, right? All
Mhm.
sorts of different course locations, but they really are experts in the field of leadership training in the wilderness, and can't recommend them enough.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that there is another program that somebody could go do because, like I said, there is, and maybe this is just my own biases, but just from my own experiences, I think it could benefit so many kids. Even, like I said, if it's not your program, just going out in nature and really having to be self-sufficient and go through the hard stuff
Go through
because,
the hard stuff.
yeah,
Go
that's the
through the
most
hard
important
stuff
piece.
to come out the other end. And honestly, I say to my students, because when they first come out, they really kind of think, oh, you didn't really tell us what this was about, or that sort of thing. And I say to them, this has never been about a nice trip to Alaska.
No.
That's not what this is about. This is about challenging you in an environment that will really genuinely challenge you. And you getting through that process and coming out the other side recognizing your own abilities. And it's huge.
Yeah, because I mean, you can go glamping, right? Like you could go, camping in a trailer even is really quite comfortable, right? But if you go backpacking, that's when you really start to realize, like, oh man, I miss a chair. I wish I had a chair right now. Like, I miss a bathroom. I miss running water. I miss hot water. Like, all of these things that we kind of take for granted, I think, in our society today, because we do. People always say that we're in this comfort crisis, right? And so when you have to do something that's not just like going to Alaska and staying in a nice cabin or it is so different when you are actually out in the elements and you only have a tent and you've got to build a fire and you've got to, make your meals and do all of this stuff in uncomfort. Like, you are not comfortable most of the time, even when you're sleeping, like on the ground, right? It's not comfy.
Well, and also it gives you the recognition that really you get back to basics. What do we really need in this life, right?
Yes.
There's really just three things. There's food, there's water, and there's shelter.
Yep.
And
And
it's
community,
amazing.
right?
You can be in the pouring rain in Alaska and have those three things and you're doing just great.
Uh-huh. Yep.
you know
For
and
sure.
so I think our students recognize that. Getting back to basics, they recognize just how much their mom and dad has done for them all their lives.
Yep.
And really they appreciate their parents so much more. There's so many layers of this that they come back with.
Yes, I love it. That was like my biggest thing when I got an email about this podcast and I looked into your organization, and that was like the number one thing. And I was like, okay, these guys are doing something big, because just getting kids into nature, and not easy, like we're not staying in a nice little cabin, like we're doing really hard things out there, is going to drastically shift their mindsets and shift just their projection in life. That's like my personal opinion, but I really do think it's that important.
100%. I would agree with that. And it gives them that confidence, like I said, to be able to meet, because the path forward is always going to have lots of challenges.
Oh yeah.
Whether it's in college, university, career,
Hmm.
family, whatever it is, always you're going to meet challenges. How do you meet those challenges, right?
Exactly.
And how do you deal with adversity?
Yes.
And that every time, what I say to our students is every time you get a chance to kind of go outside your comfort zone a little bit, deal with that adversity and get through it, every single time you do that, you're just building that ability to do that in your future,
Hmm.
and you're building that confidence to meet those unknown
I
challenges.
bet those kids have lots of grit coming out of
They do.
Alaska.
They do.
So how can someone qualify for the program, and how long are they in the program?
So high school students, apply to STEP in their sophomore year. So that's the only time you can come into STEP is in your sophomore year in high school. And our application season for this year just closed. So
Okay.
for those freshmen and eighth graders, et cetera, out there, or even younger, look at our STEP website, stepexpedition.org. You can Google STEP Expedition or STEP College Prep. Either one of those two things will get you to our website. In Arizona, we work with Tucson and Phoenix metropolitan students, but we also work down in Nogales and Rio Rico, more rural areas, if they can get to our workshops in those cities. And so they apply in their sophomore year. We accept them into the program in late January, and then we do an orientation with them starting in February with them and their parents, and they're with us then throughout the rest of their sophomore year, junior year, and all the way through high school graduation. So that's the time frame. Students need to be taking challenging courses and be willing to continue to challenge themselves. We really work on our students taking the most challenging courses at their high school, the courses that are offered at their school, and that varies depending on the high school, right? Willing to really put a lot of effort into their schoolwork and doing well in those courses, so putting in that effort to do that hard work. low income, we're working with a low income population, so near, qualifying for free and reduced lunch, and we go slightly above that. That's within
Okay.
our range of the income level. And neither parent, because we're really trying to get those students too that don't have any background in their family of their parents going to getting a college degree. So neither parent has a 4-year college degree from a United States institution. So they can be have gotten an associate's, they can even be in college, right? But, or sometimes we make exceptions if they've gotten it really later in life when they've been raising kids, et cetera, and they're doing it as they're raising kids and doing online classes and that sort of thing. So those are our qualifications.
Gotcha. So after high school, does that program just stop, or do you guys reach out to them to see how they're doing in college? Do they have like mentors or alumni that help them through college, things like that?
So we do several things with our alumni. One is that we hook them up with any STEP alumni that are already at their institution. And so we, over
Okay.
20 years now, we have quite a few students around the country at
Yes.
these institutions. And so we hook them up with those students. We also do a support group. We also have a platform where, a chat platform where alumni can talk with each other and help each other and give each other resources. We do a yearly update with them to see how they're doing through their progress. And we're always saying, hey, reach out if there's anything that you need from us, to help you in this continued journey.
That's amazing. And I think that's so awesome too, because community is such a big deal. Having people that have been through the same experiences as you or similar experiences to you, that have been through this program and being able to, keep those friendships going on, which I'm sure. The groups that go to Alaska together, they probably feel more like family by the time they
Absolutely.
leave at that 3 weeks. It's like, your new brother or sister, like you feel like family because when you do go through hard things like that together and you learn together and then you start to thrive together, like that relationship building is unlike anything else. And so I think that's awesome that they do have that community to kind of keep, them going.
And we also have our alumni come back for one of the last workshops that we do with our seniors. Typically in January, we have alumni come back and actually run that workshop about the transition to college. So we really want our alums that have made that transition because that is such a difficult transition for
Hmm.
students. And they're going into such a completely foreign world, and it's very easy to be beset with imposter syndrome, for example. But
Yep.
when you can talk to alumni that have actually been through that, felt those feelings, right? You are not
Hmm.
alone. You're not the only one feeling this way. And that is understandable, and you can get through it. And
Hmm.
there is a community of people that have been very successful that have felt those same things you're feeling in that transition. So it really is empowering that way.
Yeah, and we want to learn from people that are, maybe only a couple steps ahead of us, right? It's easier for us to learn from those people because it seems like it's more like you have the ability to actually do it because it's like, okay, well, they were me just a year ago or 2 years ago and they've now succeeded. So it's possible for me to do it, right? It's not like, yeah, they don't feel like it's not possible for them because they're literally learning from people that just went through it.
Absolutely. It came from where they came from. Absolutely.
Yes, super powerful. Awesome. Well, so you kind of already said this a little bit, but I just want to make sure that anybody listening knows exactly where they can go to learn more about STEP, how they can apply. So, what's your website? Where can they find you?
So Google STEP College Prep, or it also works to Google STEP Expedition. Either of those two things, STEP will come right up to the top, and you can go to our website. Our website is stepexpedition.org, O-R-G. And you can go to our apply page. We've got all sorts of great information on there on what our program is, and so that's how students and parents can learn more about STEP.
Mhm.
Arizona students and parents can learn more about STEP. And then for anybody that would like to support us, we every year our donations are coming from individuals and family foundations. We have no government funding. And so all this great work that we do, they can also go to our website and learn more about that. And there's a donate page, etc.
Yeah, I did notice that you guys have a pile of just corporations and just different places within Arizona, like community organizations, I guess, that are also just, donating you guys money. And so I think that's
And we have
amazing.
donors around the country also, really
Yes, I was
recognizing
noticing.
the impact.
Yes, I was noticing a couple of companies, like one that I saw was Onyx. I use Onyx all the time for my mapping system and stuff, and I think that's awesome that they're donating to you guys. Like shout out to Onyx. But yeah, that's amazing that you have so many people that are donating, and I think it's because
It's because we're being successful. That's the bottom line.
yeah, and companies realize how
I will say
beneficial
anybody
it
that
is.
really has a passion for education and generational change through success in education for low income populations, I think you could not support an organization that has got better outcomes than we do. So I mean that's the bottom line. And I want to also give a shout out for Arizona folks. For anybody listening from Arizona,
Uh-huh.
we are a qualifying charitable organization for Arizona tax credits. So that literally is a free donation. Your tax, instead of the taxes going to, say, the state government, it's going to support the organizations that you really believe in, and we qualify for that state tax credit.
Yes, and I'm not saying that's the only reason that a lot of companies and organizations will donate to, people like you is so that they can get a tax credit, but that is a very large incentive because they can, take that money that they want to spend at an organization that they think is going to be beneficial for our country or their community or whatever, and they can put money into there and then they get that tax credit. So it's kind of a win-win-win for every single person
It's
involved.
absolutely, it's just you determining where your Arizona tax dollars are going. So it's super powerful.
100%. Yes, super powerful. And then anyone that's listening as well, I will put all of the links that you're talking about. I will put your link down in the show notes. So you can go down to the show notes and just click on the link and it'll take you directly to there. If you wanted to Google it, you can do that too. But I will put that link in show notes so that people or families that are in Arizona can also go ahead and look into that.
Fantastic. And if you're willing, I can share some of the other links we talked about that might be helpful for people to go to.
Yes, that would be awesome. If you want to share any of the links that we've discussed with me, just so that I can make sure that it's in the show notes, so it makes it easier for everyone else to just go into my show notes and click on those links so that they can, maybe have some seriously awesome experiences, or at least get their kids to have these awesome experiences, because I think they are so, so powerful. But it has been such a pleasure talking to you, Tracy, and I think you are doing such big things and helping out so many kids that might not have had this opportunity, and at least, guiding them, giving them a different path that they might not have thought of or even believed that could be possible for them. And so I think that is so awesome, and I've loved talking to you today.
Well, thank you so much for taking this time with me. I really appreciate it.